plain old Grinch. Hey, it's Grinch, and today we have a very special tier list topic. We have the Lord of the Rings. This theme is near and dear to my heart. This is actually the theme that got me out of my dark ages as an adult. I love the Lord of the Rings as a franchise, and this is my all-time favorite Lego theme. If I could give all of these S tier, I absolutely would, but we can't do that, so we will be tiering these sets based off of the Lord of the Rings sets as a whole. We have polybags, we have the game that was released, the board game, not the video game, and then we have all of the other sets that were released as well. So we're going to get right into it. If you've never seen a tier list video, we have 5 different tiers. S tier is the best tier. It's epic. The most amazing of all of these sets are going to be S tier. Only a few can be S tier. Then we have A tier, right, are above average. B is average. C below average, and then D is just kind of that forgettable nonsense tier. And unfortunately, 1 or 2 sets might end up down there. But let's see. Let's get started. Our first set here is Frodo with the cooking corner. This is a poly bag that was, only $4 when it came out. It was super cheap, pretty easy to get. I believe it was Toys R Us exclusive poly bag. But for me, I think starting things out here, we're gonna have to go right with the D tier. And the reason is with the poly bag, you're right. You want something special or unique, and the build here was just a small little stove and mead container, and then the Frodo himself. Sure, this is a cheap way to get a named character, but Frodo already came out with the exact same minifigure in another cheap set, the $10 Gandalfs Arrive set. So for me, there was already a cheap way to get this minifigure. It's not like he came out only in an expensive set, so this set just kind of didn't really serve a good purpose. Unlike the next set that we'll talk about is actually the Urukai with Ballista. This set was another $4 exclusive through like Lego Discovery Centers, I think Five Below, and then also some newspapers and Toys R Us. So there's plenty of ways to get it. This was a better poly bag in my opinion. I'm gonna have to put this at average. It's very cheap. It's gonna go in the B tier, and that's just because, unlike the Frodo poly bag, you wanted to have multiple copies of the Urukai, right? You wanted to be able to mass and build this big army. Sure, there was some kind of small build that you didn't really care for, but to be able to get a cheap Urukai and be able to get a lot of them was awesome. You can't really have an army of Frodos, but you could have an army of Urukai, and to be able to get them cheaply, that kind of speaks for itself. Nothing special though, so it's not A tier. I'd say it's average. This is what you're looking for in a poly bag. I think we're gonna have our first A tier here with this next poly bag. This was the Elrond poly bag that actually came out, was a pre-order bonus with the Lord of the Rings video game, and I'm gonna have to go ahead and straight up just give this one A tier. This was the only way to get this Elrond. It was a really cool, unique version of Elrond too. It was the one that you saw in the original scene, the first scene of the movie, back in the Second Age when they're fighting Sauron originally. In Mordor. Just a cool armor print. You got the cool elf sword that we've seen now a couple times, but being that this is the only way to get this unique minifigure, this is what I love to see with these poly bags, right? A unique figure print that might not fit into a set, but cool nonetheless, from a cool scene in the movie, a different outfit, and it's fun to get these sort of figures as one-offs and poly bags, and that's why for me it's above average, right? It's not just a figure that you want multiple of, it's a unique minifigure that we never got to see before, and probably will never get to see again. All right, next up we have the Lord of the Rings board game. This is kind of a bonus. I think Bricklink says that this is a gear technically. It doesn't quite fit into the sets themselves, right, as a board game. And if I recall, the board game was actually kind of fun. You got this cool little micro scale version of Helms Deep, which I thought was kind of unique and different. But really, the take home factor for me of ranking this set is actually going to be the micro figures that you get. And I think I'm going to have to put this in A. And this might be controversial. Let me know in the comments if you have this set, what you thought of it. But the reason I'm putting this in A is because it came with the micro or the nano figures, right? I think they were called nano figures, not micro figures, not like the ones we have today. These were actually 1 or 2 brick tall figures, I believe, 1.5 brick tall figures. And they were just totally different. They were all printed. You got a bunch of them, and that's something we will probably never see again. Lego does not make that piece anymore. They kind of came out with it around this time. They did it for this and The Hobbit, and I think Star Wars and um, the Harry Potter, and then they kind of did some other regular Lego non-licensed figures in this nano scale. But we'll never see this again. And for me as a collector, this is super unique and something that I think is super cool. So there's some personal bias here with this rating, but this set is kind of one of a kind in my opinion. You got a micro scale Helms Deep, and then you've got these nano scale minifigures, and the game itself was fun. It's kind of fun to play every once in a while, but it's nothing to write home about. But as a collector, I'm really giving this one an above average grade because it's so unique, it's so different, and we won't see that again. All right, so next up we have the Wizard Battle. This set featured Sauron and Gandalf, and this was a cool set. It was cheap. I think it was $10 or $12. So it was easy to get. You had a nice little internal Isengard throne build, and what really I enjoyed about it was the small eye piece that came with the little globe. It was a printed piece. I thought that piece was just so unique, and it was as this being the only set where you could get that in the series, I thought that was cool. It stayed exclusive to the set. This was a cheap way to get Sauron. The only other way you could get him was in the Tower of Orthanc. Gandalf came out in so many sets that it's not really worth talking about. I think he was the most popular figure between this and the Hobbit combined. But for me, there's nothing super special about this. It's just kind of a little play set. I'm going to give it a B. The Sauron minifigure is cool, of course. The Gandalf minifigure is cool, of course. That print is cool. But it does its job, and it does it well. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's kind of what you'd expect. There's a couple play features built in with the chair, but again, nothing to really write home about in terms of you had to have this set. For me, I had to have it for that eye print. But again, otherwise, it is just kind of what it is. So coming up next, we have the Council of Elrond. This is another kind of cool smaller set. I believe it was $30. Came with like 4 minifigures, and a few of them were unique. I think you got a unique Frodo, although the prints weren't unique. I think it's just in this case he didn't come with a cape or something, so that made him unique to the set. But then you got a unique Elrond and a unique Eowyn. That was the only way to get those 2 minifigures in set form. The Elrond came out in a poly bag, but a different figure. Cool, important figures to the story. You had a nice little Rivendell kind of build here with the meeting of the ring. But for me, again, nothing special about this set. I actually think it's kind of a pretty build. You've got nice colors. I think it kind of captures the aesthetic of Rivendell well. But again, it does its job. It's fine. Nothing super groundbreaking about it. And to be honest, the competition here is tough. There's a lot of great sets that we're about to get to. Yeah, it's just kind of average for me. Next up, we have the Black Gate, the Battle at the Black Gate. For me, I really liked this set. I liked the fact that it was relatively cheap. It was only $60, and for what you got a lot for $60. I think that nowadays the set would be like $80 just because you got a bigger eagle in it. You got a horse. The helmet for the Mouth of Sauron was so cool, and as a fan of Lord of the Rings, this is something I never thought we'd get in Lego form. I'm gonna have to give this an A. I thought we'd get a Black Gate. I didn't think we'd get the Mouth of Sauron. And if you don't know, he was featured in the extended version, a really, really cool scene from the extended version, but he was not in the theatrical release. So this was kind of Lego going down the deep hits of Lord of the Rings. And as a fan of Lord of the Rings, I really appreciated that. Sometimes you get that with Harry Potter, sometimes you get that with Star Wars, but here we got that with Lord of the Rings, and to me that was really cool. You also got that awesome Ringwraith horse, kind of the Mordor horse, with that print on it, which was cool. And another cool feature of this set is that you could put two of them together to actually make a bigger black gate and kind of display it really well. I still actually need to pick up a second copy for that very reason. And then last but certainly not least, you got Aragorn and his king, his Gondor outfit. That was a really cool minifigure, unique to the set. Just a lot of good things, awesome things that came out in this set. So for me, it takes an A. All right, so next up we have the pirate ship ambush set. This was kind of a random set. Personally, I would have much rather seen maybe a destructed Osgiliath set in this place. I know Lego loves its vehicles, and it's kind of funny to think that this is one of like two vehicle sets that we got in this entire series, considering how many sets they made and how much Lego loves vehicles. So I'm not surprised they made this boat, but it didn't really fit into any of the other sets well, in my opinion. There was no Minas Tirith set, so you don't really need the pirate ship. There was no elephant set, so you couldn't really recreate the battle where this piece was involved, right? So for me, this would have been better had we had a Minas Tirith, had we had a elephant set or an Osgiliath set, and I think those sets I would have liked better. So I'm going to put this one slightly below average, just because when you look at the entirety of Lord of the Rings as a whole, all the sets they came out with, this one isn't a pivotal scene like the Shelob's Lair, right? This isn't a epic battle scene. It's a part of an epic battle, but you don't get the main part of that battle, and I want that main part, right? Otherwise, this is just kind of a pirate ship. We got some cool minifigures. I think that might be its only saving grace with the Ghost King and the two Ghost Soldiers, but otherwise, just kind of a below average set in my opinion. Next up, we have the Gandalfs Arrive set, and this was another one of the cheap sets that was in the series. I believe it was another like $12 or $15 set. It came with Gandalf and that same Frodo we got in that poly bag. I really like this set. I'm going to say it's average. You have to have these cheaper sets that are easier to buy so you can get some of these characters. And then, knowing that this is just a $15 to $12 set, it's not going to be anything amazing. It's not going to be something that really stands out, but it does the job well. It's a nice little display piece. I love the build for the card, actually. That it's kind of a cool little build. It came with some fireworks as well. So overall, gets the job done. It kind of fills that hole of needing a smaller, cheaper set, and making these characters more available. Next up, we have the Shelob's Attack, and I think this is another average set for me. It's an important scene in the movie. It was the only way to get Sam. The build for Shelob itself is okay. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of brick-built animals, but I understand why they went that way. I definitely would have preferred that over a molded animal. That would have just been silly. But animals just aren't as impactful in brick-built form for me. So overall, when it's just kind of the main focus of the set, it's just kind of blah. I believe, though, this was also the only way to get the minifigure Golem in this series. You could get him in The Hobbit, but this was the only one that came with him in the Lord of the Rings series, so that was a big plus of this set. Really, the only reason you were getting this set is to complete the fellowship with Sam, and then to also get that Golem. The Frodo was a bonus, and the Spider was a bonus, but you weren't really, excited to display the Spider and the small rock that this came with. That was just kind of what it was. It was one of these sets that had to be included, but overall just meh, and so that's why we're giving it an average. I think if the minifigures weren't involved, if this was just a Shelob and a Rock and maybe a Frodo, I would have given this a C for sure. Definitely would have been below average, but this was a great way to get that Sam minifigure as well as the Golem minifigure. All right, so moving on, we have our first S tier. So this is the Urukai Army set, and I loved this set. It came with a Aemir minifigure, a Rohan soldier. It also had this awesome build for a little scorpion, and then you had 4 Urakai. This was your army builder. It was $30, but what was really cool is you could add this on to Helms Deep, and that allowed you to extend out your Helms Deep. And if you were like me, you got 2 of them. You put one on each side of the exploding wall to make that nice and big. But then you also got so many more Urakai with this. This was just a great set. I have to give this an S tier. I wish LEGO would do more like this. I know you had to have Helms Deep to be, for this set to have more value. Spoiler alert, Helms Deep is going to be an S2. Just awesome set. So overall, this really added to Helms Deep, but it also stood on its own, and I think that's where this is important. You could recreate or you can make a small scene from this set. You didn't necessarily have to have Helms Deep. It was nice to, don't get me wrong, but you could have 1 or 2 of these. You could put them up, smaller display area, and you still got the grander idea. It was more of a little vignette piece, and I loved the fact that you could add this to Helms Deep. All right, so next up, I think we have another S tier. We have the Tower of Orthanc. This set, I believe at the time that it came out, was the tallest LEGO set ever released. Fact check me on that one, I believe so. It came with a cool Sauron, a cool eagle. There weren't any real awesome exclusive minifigures. I know Grimo Wormtongue was exclusive. I think the only reason he is valuable, I don't think he's a love character. I think he's valuable right now because he was exclusive to this more expensive set. This set was $200 when it came out, so for that reason, his price instantly skyrocketed on the second hand market. But overall, this was a really fun and cool build. This build was so much fun to build each level. It kind of acted as a really nice display piece as well as a play piece too, because you could turn it around and the back of it, you could get into each of the compartments, and it had some internal details, which was really cool. But also, you had that front side that just works so well as a display piece. It really captures the overall feel, aesthetic of the building, and when you look at it in Lego form, you really feel like you were looking at it in the movie. You understand it, you feel kind of creeped out by it, and that's just really cool to experience from a Lego set. Next up, we have the Attack on Withertop. This is going to be another B set. This is how you could get Merry and Pippin. It was the only way, and it came with some really cool ring race as well. The ring race were great. The build itself was okay. I wish it was a little bit bigger. I understand why it was small, but I think this was kind of one of the worst deals in the series. It was a $60 set when it came out, and it only had like 400 pieces. I know you had quite a few minifigures in the set for its size, and you had a couple of horses as well. But overall, the build it didn't feel like a $60 build. I wish that part was a little bit better, the build itself. But overall, not disappointed in the set. I'm just saying it's average, right? There's left some things to be desired with the set, but you were happy that you got it. All right, so next up we have the Minds of Moira. And this came with that really cool troll set. It also came with Boromir. It was definitely a good deal. I know some people felt like, oh, you didn't get that much, but getting that unique troll figure I think was really cool. I'm gonna have to go with an A here for this set. You did get that cool troll. You got a bunch of the Fellowship in this set, and then you got some Moria orcs, which was different. This was, I believe, the only way that you could get Pippin, because of the well scene. It recreated the scene really well. The pillars fell off. There was the front door. and then it made for a nice display piece too. And you really did at the time didn't get that a lot from Lego. There had to be something else, but just like a lot of these sets, they made for better display pieces. And for me, this set captured that scene better than the Rivendell set, than the Withertop set, and that's why it's gonna be an A for me. All right, next up we have the Helms Deep. I'm just going to throw that up there in S tier right away. I think that was just an awesome set. It captured that castle so well. I think the worst part about this set was that they did such a good job with it. And it made you so excited for Minas Tirith, right? You're like, wow, they really captured Helm's Deep. What are they gonna do with Minas Tirith? We could get at least a part of it, and it could look like this. But that never happened. I think that was the biggest letdown with this set, was the potential it had for other sets to copy a similar format. But overall, just looking at the set here, right, it came with the explodable wall, which was a cool feature. You had King Theoden. There's some really cool depth here too. It captures the depth of the castle itself well. You had all the different compartments, great play piece, great display piece, and I can't really say anything bad about it. And that's what makes it an S tier. When you think of Lord of the Rings sets, you think of this set as well as the Tower of Orthanc. That's why they're on our S tier list. And then last up we have the Orc Forge, and this is going to be our next tier, a C tier. It was kind of just another more expensive battle pack in terms of getting 4 orcs, but overall this wasn't a important scene from the movie. I believe what they were referencing was the first movie and the parts of the second movie where they're actually creating the orcs, and it was kind of a head scratcher. I remember seeing this one when it was announced, and I was like, "Wait, what? The Orc Forge? Okay, cool." It wasn't, "Oh my gosh, they made the Orc Forge," right? It was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, I guess I see what they're doing there," and so that's why it was below average. I think looking at this set, as a $40 set, I think a lot cooler set idea could have been like an Amon Hen, that final battle scene where Boromir dies in the Fellowship of the Ring. They could have made a couple of stone statues surrounded by a couple trees, and then had the same number of orcs here, maybe 1 or 2 of the Fellowship. I think that would have been a more epic moment in the movie that could have captured a scene much better than just having the Orc Forge, because this is a toy, right? And thinking about it as a playing toy, you weren't really excited to play with this, right? You weren't even excited to display this as a collector. Mon's Hen or some other scene would have been much more impactful, in my opinion. And so for me, it's below average. All right, so that is our tier list. We have our tier list here. You can see there's it's definitely curving towards S and towards A. I think maybe some of my Lord of the Rings bias is showing here. But overall, I think everybody would agree in terms of Lego themes, what we got from Lord of the Rings was definitely above average. And I think you can see that reflected here. The below average stuff was still cool. It was still cool to get. They were still really well designed sets regardless. But just in general, this theme was represented so well from Lego. It's my favorite theme, and I think you can see that here in the tier list. So anyways, that's the tier list. Like the video if you like it. If you dislike it, go ahead and dislike it. If you agree or disagree with any of my selections here, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what your S tier sets are, what your favorite polybag is, or anything like that. I'd love to hear it. Anyone's opinion is welcome in the comments, so feel free to subscribe to this channel too. I've got plenty of tier lists. I'm going to have some Lord of the Rings reviews coming out, some Hobbit reviews coming out. And anyways, I will see you in the next one. Thanks.